Daf Yomi, tractate Bava Metzia, page 32b, top of the page, with the words Medivrei Shneim. From the statements of both of these Tanaim, it can be learned that the requirement to prevent suffering to animals is by Torah law. As even Rabbi Shimon says that he disagreed with the opinion of the rabbis only because the verses are not clearly defined. But had the verses been clearly defined, we would have learned the same a fortiori inference. Due to what factor can that inference be learned? What, is it not due to the matter of suffering of animals, which is a factor in unloading and not a factor in loading, that we would have learned the a fortiori inference? The Gemara rejects that proof. Perhaps the a fortiori inference is due to the fact that there is a factor of monetary loss in unloading, but not in loading. And this is what the rabbis are saying. If in the case of loading, where if one fails to assist the owner, there is no potential monetary loss, one is obligated to help load the animal. In the case of unloading, where if one fails to assist the owner, there is potential monetary loss. Is it not all the more so clear that one is required to unload the burden? The Gemara asks, but is there no potential monetary loss in loading? Are we not also dealing with the case where in the meanwhile, while the owner waits for assistance, he will be prevented from bringing his merchandise to the marketplace in time to sell it? Alternatively, thieves might come and take all the merchandise that is there with him. Therefore, no a fortiori inference can be learned on the basis of monetary loss, and the inference must be based on the matter of the suffering of animals. The Gemara cites an additional proof. Know that the requirement to prevent suffering to animals is by Torah law, as it is taught in the latter clause of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi Haglili says, if there was a burden upon the animal greater than its typical burden, one need not attend to it, as it is stated under its burden. Exodus 23:5. Rabbi Yossi holds that the obligation to unload an animal is with regard to a burden that the animal can bear. Does this not indicate by inference that the first Tana holds that he must attend to it to unload a burden that is greater than its typical burden? What is the reason for this ruling? Is it not due to the fact that the requirement to prevent suffering to animals is by Torah law? The Gemara rejects that proof. Perhaps it is with regard to the meaning of the phrase under its burden that they disagree. As Rabbi Yossi Haglili holds that we interpret the phrase under its burden to mean a burden that the animal can bear. And the rabbis hold that we do not interpret the phrase under its burden in this manner. The Gemara cites an additional proof. Know that the requirement to prevent suffering to animals is not by Torah law, as it is taught in the former clause of the Mishnah. If the owner went and sat and said to a passerby, since there is a mitzvah incumbent upon you to unload the burden, unload it. The passerby is exempt. As it is stated, you shall release it with him. Exodus 23, verse 5. And if it enters your mind that the requirement to prevent suffering to animals is by Torah law, what is it to me if its owner is working with the passerby, and what is it to me if its owner is not working with the passerby? The animal suffers in both cases. The Gemara rejects that proof. Actually, One could say that the requirement to prevent suffering to animals is by Torah law, and when the Tana exempts the passerby, when the owner does not participate in unloading the burden, do you maintain that exempt means completely exempt? Perhaps it means that the passerby is exempt from unloading the burden for free, but is obligated to do it for remuneration. And this is what the Merciful One said. If its owner is working with the passerby, perform the unloading with him for free, and if its owner is not working with the passerby, perform the unloading for him for payment, for remuneration. And actually, the requirement to prevent suffering to animals is by Torah law. We'll stop here for now. Part 1.